Yes, I've got you and you've got me. How are you?
There you go.
Oh, sir.
I got you loud and clear.
It's an absolute pleasure, an honor to have you with us. Thank you, Along. Thank you for being here.
Hey, you got a few records back there, don't you? Jesus. Wow.
Just one or two. But I probably wouldn't have anywhere near as many as yourself if you were still collecting, right?
Right. Well, I had a pretty large collection, but when things went digital, I was like, why am I dragging this around with me? So it's easier to sample off of, back in those days, it was easier to sample off of digital than it was off of vinyl. So I'll have to come by one of these days and just do a sample thing.
You whenever. So listen, let me pause, refresh, because I've been so frantic this morning, panicking that everything's going to work okay. So I'll take a deep breath, compose myself, and I will welcome you along again. Thank you for being here. I am truly honoured. I will set the scene of exactly what's going on. You are currently live on Pressure Radio. I have a weekly radio show that broadcasts video and audio, and I'm broadcasting on YouTube, I'm broadcasting on Mixcloud, and it will also be available as a podcast.
Well, I'm lucky I put on clean underwear.
Indeed. Well, some of the stories that I've heard, I'm surprised that you
exactly. Yeah. I didn't have any underwear on in those stories.
Well, there you go. So you mentioned...
And proud of it, and very proud of it.
And I can tell. You mentioned the stories. So I will continue to paint the picture as to how and why we're here now talking. You over there and me here in sunny Spain. I heard your interview with Lenny Fontana, which absolutely blew me away. I am not ashamed to say I was one of those guys, as I revealed to you on the email, I was one of those guys that had never really stopped to think about who is Man Parrish. I just knew.
He's some black guy from the Bronx. That's what everybody thinks. But
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with being black or from the Bronx, but everybody thought because I was doing urban music that I was a black kid from the Bronx, and I was a white puff from Brooklyn.
And it's just a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Well. So let me just ask. In
the wrong genre of music back in those days, you didn't have many gay guys wearing glitter outfits, David Bowie glitter outfits, going to hardcore hip hop urban clubs, and Joey Arias and Adrian Richards. I don't know, maybe we could see the picture up here. That's the live show. And they would have graffiti jackets and skirts and go twirling around spraying glitter and balloons in the middle of a hip hop club. And people are like, what the hell is that? So, yeah.
Well, I want to hear more about that. So I just want to ask all of the guys on Pressure, on Mixcloud, can you hear me, guys? Let me know everything is sounding fine. Let me know you can see everything is cool. It would appear that everything looks great.
And if you have a chat window, any questions are great. Just throw me anything whatsoever.
Well, I have lots of people here in the chat room who are going to ask. I will throw them to you under no time constraints. So Lenny did a fantastic interview with you. And as I said, I didn't know much about Man Parrish. I just knew that he was responsible for, some of the most important and influential records of our time. Your story floored me. It blew me away. It led me to reach out to you because you came across as a very humble guy, a very giving guy, someone who was very helpful. And immediately you replied back and said, Andy, let's talk. How can I help you? And it is my aim here to whet people's appetites for your website and your Man Parrish stories on YouTube, which are absolutely incredible, right?
Thank you. Let's get them wet.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a completely safe zone. You have carte blanche to do whatever you want. I will begin by saying
I won't talk like a truck driver. I promise to be good.
I don't think you have it in you.
Oh, fucking, yeah. Fucking, all right. Let's fucking fuck this up, man. That's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about shit, bro.
Let's talk about
That's
shit.
More like my Brooklyn upbringing. There we go.
Great. Well, the story that you did with Lenny, I'm not going to recap the story because it was over 2 hours, 2 hours something, and it was a fantastic interview that I felt Lenny really brought some great stuff from you. I just want to continue to give you the opportunity to discuss more about your music because for no fault of
we can talk about anything. I mean, quickly,
Yeah.
I ran away from home at 14 years old. My mother was schizophrenic, so I had a very rough and violent childhood growing up. She tied me to a radiator, tried to turn up the steam, knocked me out unconscious, chased me around the house with knives and scissors. I mean, very violent stuff. I ran away from home and wound up in the arms of a pedophile because who's going to pick up a 14-year-old boy wandering around Manhattan, but, a freak. And I thought, well, I think I'm gay, and this must be what gay guys do when they find young boys that have run away. They take them in and they, give them a place to live, except for we started going on these little trips to other states and, travel for 3 or 4 hours to visit other guys that had little boys and, playtime. So it was very dark and very heavy time period, but I managed to get out of it, and music was the thing that kind of, put on headphones. And back then I could smoke weed. Now I can't. I have that thing where you get paranoid from THC, and it drives me crazy because I really need a chemical vacation. I really do. But if I smoke, I get uncomfortable. But back then, put on some headphones, smoke some weed, listen to whatever synthesizer music was around back then. And that was my escapism because my world around me was pretty bad. Pretty rough and pretty bad from 8 till about 18. I was homeless. I lived on the streets. I would meet somebody and could I borrow $5? Never be able to get it back. And I'd buy a can of soup and some peanut butter. And I lived on that in a building where I swept floors in a gallery for a room with no heat and just cold water. And I think I found a mattress on the street, which is disgusting now, but that's all that I had to do. My coffee table was 2 milk crates with a board across it. And, I started, I was very interested in music, but at that time I was painting and doing silk screens, which I actually have. I don't think they're up here. They're inside. So music was very, very, very important, that part of my life. I had taken... My father was a terrible, terrible piano player, kind of stuff, and said that I had to learn these classics, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer to, stuff like that. And I was like, oh, God, I want to sound like Elton John and whatever was on the radio with David Bowie. So I went for 2 or 3 piano lessons, and I couldn't be controlled. I was a child in crisis. I was broken and abused and depressed and really bad, really dark place. So she took a ruler and hit me over my knuckles. You're not playing that right. And I told her to go fuck yourself, you fat cunt, I think was the exact words that I said at 10 years old. And that was the end of my music lesson. So to this day, I can't read or write music. I do everything by ear. If you could see back there, that's my friend Klaus Nomi, who's long gone. He sings opera like a woman, like in a female range. That's a type of male singer that's rare that could sing in that range. And I'm scoring 200-person orchestras and choirs, but I'm doing it all by ear because if you ask me what key it's in, I don't know. So music is very important. When I've been depressed, when I've been down and out, music is a place where I could put some headphones on and close my eyes and go to another world.
Well, you had some of the stories when you say about the company that you kept, some of the predicaments you would find yourself in.
Yeah. Well, let me roll it back. So I'm 64, old AF, as kids say, old as fuck, right? So, my screensaver kicked in. Sorry. Just got weird in here for a second. The light changed. In the 70s in New York City, there was no dance music. It was only rock and roll, jazz, and classical. So if you wanted to hang out where your friends hung out, you hung out in rock and roll places. So we would go to Max's Kansas City, which is a rock and roll bar in Manhattan, and CBGB's, which became quite famous. And we would see groups like the Ramones. I mean, they would be just a local band, and Bruce Springsteen got booed off the stage for doing what do you call it? Doing an acoustic set, and Debbie Harry would get out from behind the bar and Blondie, and we saw Devo and Talking Heads and Joan Jett and the Runaways and all this kind of stuff. Lou Reed and all these great rock and roll people. And then disco happened. So the Aerosmith used to drive down from Boston, do a show, and then park their van in front of Max's Kansas City, lean against the van with a couple of socks in their pants, trying to pick up girls. You know what I mean? The old rock and roll, long hair, tight. I've seen things I don't want to see, but so it was kind of a weird community of just kids that were at the beginning of something that happened. Later on, disco happened, and my friend, her father was in the mafia. I lived in Brooklyn, so there was mafia. So at 14 years old, 13 years, I was living at home. I was 13 before I ran away at 14. 13 years old, we were going to Studio 54, and we'd park our car in the public car park next to Studio 54. And when a limousine came, we would run up along the side of the limousine, crouch down, and stand up and pretend we were with them and walk into Studio 54. So we started going every week. And I thought, well, how are we getting in? Well, it turns out, I thought she was having sex with the doorman. Turned out later her father was in the mafia, and she was a Quaalude dealer at 14 in Studio 54. So of course we could get in for everything. So we wound up hanging out with, Mick Jagger, Bianca Jagger, Liza Minnelli. I remember going to Halston, the designer, his house, and there was a big couch. And I'm going to drop a lot of names, folks. There was Mick Jagger, Bianca Jagger, Truman Capote, Liza Minnelli, Halston, the designer, one or two other people, and me and Linda, because she was dealing drugs. And they would do giant family-sized tray of cocaine with, I don't know how many kilos, and they're just passing it around back and forth. And if you've seen, Netflix has a Halston documentary, and they're in his house. They didn't recreate it properly, but I was in that house. So we kind of, I don't know, New York was a much smaller town then, because those people weren't into rock and roll. So they wouldn't hang out at CBGB's with, it was before the very beginnings of punk.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned Debbie. Sorry to interrupt you. You mentioned Debbie Harry. No. She worked behind the bar.
Debbie Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the bartender. She was one of the bartenders. She had a bartending gig at CBGB's. I mean, at Max's Kansas City. I'm going to plug in my thing. I realized the plug came out anyway. Yeah, she because we were just kids. We hung out with Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat. We're just like kids that hung out in our group, and we went to places like the Mud Club and Area Club and Danceteria, which were now new wave clubs in New York. But yet again, these were very new things, and the crowd from the Rock and Roll Club made it over to the dance club, the New Wave Club, because if you didn't want to see Aerosmith, you kind of were into Human League and that kind of stuff. So you couldn't hear that music in the rock club, but you heard it in the New Wave Club. And
so were you predominantly?
Were
you predominantly in a white crowd?
The rock and roll was white, but the new wave was mixed. Okay. Because Jean-Michel Basquiat used to hang out with us, the artist, and he was black. And Keith Haring was a white kid, but mostly hung out uptown with a lot of Latin guys and brought his friends down into it, because the rock and roll stuff was pure rock and roll, Aerosmith, Talking Heads. But the new wave stuff had a dance floor. And there weren't many dance floors. There was the very beginnings of disco. So if you wanted to hang out, party, and dance, and you're into rhythm, these are the places where you would go. At the same time, they were quote unquote urban dance clubs in those days, like the Fever in the Bronx and the Funhouse in Manhattan, that played funk, R&B, and this new kind of street music, like Planet Rock and all that kind of stuff. So there's a story where I get into that, and we get into hip hop, bebop, and boogie down Bronx. But just giving you a little bit of a background. So I saw all these famous people, and because of that, some of these people were either friends or dealers of these people. So I wound up working with Boy George and Michael Jackson, Gloria Gaynor, over in Europe, Steve Strange from Visage, Bronski Beat, Steve Bronski. I mean, I could drop names from here to tomorrow with people that I worked with, because that's what a producer does. You kind of make them. Hopefully, you make them better.
Yes.
And you stick your name on it. We had a group, Man to Man, which did a stupid song in England that broke charts all around the world, Male Stripper, which was embarrassing. But now it's a high NRG, this Stock Aitken Waterman, Bananarama phase. We tried to do that, and we wound up with I was a male stripper in a go-go bar. It's like, how embarrassing is this stuff, But we were on top of the pops in England, so hey.
Let me roll it.
Yeah,
back.
there's a lot there to chew.
Let me roll it.
And that's
back.
only the beginning.
I'm going to pause, and we have ages. We have as long as
you're
you
going to get
like
it.
to
You're
talk.
going to get ages.
I'm going to remind you, the reason that we are here is to heavily promote your website and to heavily promote your stories, because the first thing that caught my attention, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying, is that how relatively few people have seen these stories in comparison.
It did take traction, and then somebody at YouTube didn't like the fact that I was talking about sexually being abused. And I had this doctor in a child growth study who raped me for 3 years, send my mother away for an hour, come back, and I'd have to go every couple of months. I was very tall, and I was in this study, and I can't name the doctor or the hospital, but it became a huge case, not only for me, but for, hundreds of other kids. I put the stories up, and I was talking about those things, and somebody at YouTube didn't like the fact that I said I was a male prostitute, which turned out to be a comedy routine anyway. It was so funny. I'm not a good male prostitute, I wound up, oh no, don't worry, everything will be okay. We wound up talking instead of having sex. I got paid, but your friends don't like you. It's okay, what I mean? Here, touch my what, but let's do therapy. So it turned into a therapy session. I got out of having sex a couple of times. A few times I did, but I got so I put these stories up, and YouTube took them down, and I thought those were the only copies. And for a year and a half, 2 years, I really worked hard on the Man Parrish stories on YouTube. What I did is I got up every morning, and for 10 minutes, 15 minutes without editing, the goal was to tell a story without editing. So it'd be pure and true and, real. And I was going to do it for a month, but it turned out to be 40 days. So I had 40 episodes, and YouTube took me down. And for a year and a half, I lost all my stuff. I was digging in the back of my closet and found an old drive, and I said, what's on here? And wow, the stories came out. So I just put them back up about 4 months ago. You know what I mean?
Okay. So that explains.
That's what happened. Why there was a giant dead spot. People kept saying, put them up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. I have to put a month aside and do these again and remember what I said. But thank God they're there. I'm going to do another one about New York City Underground, and I want to talk about the sex clubs and glory holes and cruising spots and straight and gay, sex parties and lofts. But I'm afraid that YouTube's going to, banish me. So I don't know how to, where to put it. But that's how the Man Parrish stories came about. And there's 45-minute stories, 5, 10, 15-minute stories talking about everything. I was in David Bowie's house and looked in his underwear drawer. I came down from the ceiling at Studio 54, and an unknown singer, Madonna, was my opening act. I worked with Gloria Gaynor, the Queen of Disco, and she had the tightest pair of spandex pants. And
tell us about the camel toe.
You got it. You said it. Music. I'm not afraid to say it when you say. I mean, I've got stories. I got stories. So I thought I would. Well, I would. You know what? I tell something would come out and go, oh, this is what happened. That would happen. They said you should write a book. So I tried several times to write a book myself. I had 2 or 3 different people. I mean, one of them was like a poet. Mr. Parrish's aesthetic of synthesizer, digital music combined with the aesthetics of, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. So I wound up doing my book as Man Parrish Stories on YouTube in tiny little nugget chapters. I watch YouTube. I don't want more than 10 minutes. I go crazy. So I did them in little snippets. And there's a lot of...
The thing that struck me is how transparent you are, how authentic you are.
Hey, listen, I grew up as a sexually, mentally, and physically abused gay kid in the 70s when you couldn't be gay. And I ran away from home and I lived in Manhattan with free... I wound up managing the Village People for 6 years and touring the world. So I tell everybody I was raised by drag queens and the Village People. I mean, how low can you go, right? So I don't give a fuck. If you're not paying my rent, I don't give a fuck. I'll be polite. I'll never hurt you. I'm not some vicious bitch. I mean, I can be a vicious bitch. Oops, maybe. But I people are good. So, that's the way I look at life. And I don't give a fuck what somebody thinks of me. I respect if they don't. Hey, fine. That's your noise, not mine. But I'm who I am.
Mm-hmm. But there is an end goal to all of this. By you sharing your stories, by you sharing your pain, you are.
Well, one of the reasons I want to do that is when I was in England. Can you hear that fan? I just have to turn on a fan.
It's fine.
Great.
It's fine.
Okay. My beautiful blonde hair will be blowing in the wind. Right. So I did a song called Male Stripper with a group called Man to Man, and it did very well in England. There's a whole backstory behind that, which we could talk about or not, but that's not the goal of what I'm saying now. And it's basically, I was a male stripper in a go-go bar. When I was on tour with Village People, we played in England in a small town, and this guy came back up to the side of the stage afterwards. I was doing live sound and producing the show on tour with them. And I said, oh, if you want to meet the Village People, give them a couple minutes. They got to get dressed, but someone will come out and say hello. He goes, no, you're a Man Parrish. I want to talk to you. And I went, oh, wow, thank you, And he said, I was a gay kid in a small town in England, and which I always thought gay was morally wrong. And one night I decided to end my life. And I was in my room and I had the bottle of liquor and these sleeping pills all laid out. And I was getting ready to take them. And I thought, let me listen to some music. And he puts on Male Stripper and it comes on. And he's listening to the lyrics. And he realized these are guys singing about a male stripper. And he said to me, and it was the most touching thing that ever happened in my life. He said, you saved my life, because I realized I wasn't, what's that thing in Little Britain? I'm the only gay in the village. It was kind of like that, but for real in front of my face. And he realized I'm not the only gay guy in the world because I had no other reference. And I decided not to take my life that night. And he gave me a hug. I got goosebumps, right? Every time I tell this, I got goosebumps. And he walked away. I turned around and went backstage for a second. I broke down into tears and I walked into the dressing room and the guys were like, oh my God, what's going on? You're crying. I said, you're not going to believe the story. So from that point on, one of these days I was going to tell my story. And if hopefully people can realize, whatever's happening in your life may be bad, but it's, you made it this far, you'll make it to the end, hopefully. You know what I mean? If you don't take your life or do something stupid. So it's okay. It's okay. Half of it's noise in your head, and the other half of it is other people's hangups in your face. So once you realize that, you can live your life. You don't have to go marching in gay parades or this or that. But if you're 90% straight and 10% you want a dick in your face, I don't care. Everybody's different, so there's no judgments. I grew up.
do you say on the stories, because I haven't had a chance to take all of the segments in, do you share the part of the interview that you said with Lenny about how you perceived yourself on the gay scale?
All right, so that's great to talk about. So in the old days, you were gay or straight. Who plays the man? Who plays the girl? You know, that was a stereotype that lived around for a very long time because people couldn't understand that, you know, how does it work? How do two guys do it? You know what I mean? That's that sort of thing. Well, there's like, you know, when a straight guy says that to me, I said, honey, I can do things to you that your girlfriend can't, so don't even try. You know what I mean? But, my brain got lost. What was the question again?
We were talking about the levels.
Yeah. So instead of 50 Shades of Grey, like that S&M movie, I call it 50 Shades of Gay. Some people may be 95% straight, but that guy's got a big dick, or maybe 90% gay, but wow, she's beautiful. She's got big tits. And then there's a whole spectrum in between. So I consider myself, there's a word in the LGBTQ. I consider myself queer, which is an old school word of saying you're peculiar. I don't watch gay movies, porn. I watch straight movies. So, and I'm looking at everybody in the movie, not just the guys. I mean, a little on the guy side more than the girl side, but you know what I mean? I think sexuality is shades of gray or rainbow. Everybody's got their freaky thing. Somebody likes to be spanked. You know, somebody wants their nipples pulled. You know, somebody wants it in doggy position. Other guys are into feet, you know. Working at a bar called The Cock for 15 years. I had a party called Sperm on Sunday. I saw everything. You know what I mean? Before that, I worked in a fetish club, and I saw stuff that I couldn't believe. Like, not dirty filth. I mean, there are a few filthy things, but for the most part, like, wow, that person gets off on that. How interesting the mind works. And once I realized that, I realized I'm not necessarily gay or straight or bi. I'm my own concoction of whatever that is. And now it's easier for me to talk to you about it because, you know, this gay pride thing is everywhere. But it does drive me crazy that every movie has to have a gay character. Oh! I just went to go see Buzz Lightyear.
The token
and
gay.
The female row has a lesbian, and she had to, you know, it's like, stop it already. You know what I mean? And I'm gay. You know, for how many years now? I'm 64, so, you know, for 50s, I'm like, stop it. You know what I mean? Good we can get married. Good we don't get beat up on the street, but straight people, please stop it. You know, I joke, and I used to say in the old days, in the 70s and 80s, if you had a black friend, you're cool. Now, today, if you have a gay friend, you're cool. So we're the it right now. You know what I mean? So I don't care what anybody says about me. I know what my sexuality is, but my sexuality doesn't do the music that I make. You know, it may influence some of my campy, funny stuff because I have more freedom to do something sweet or feminine or dishy and not have to worry about, oh, dude, you know, yo, dude, what's up, bro? You know, it's like, yeah, go ahead, do your bro thing. Yeah, I could do a bro thing too, but I could do it with glitter.
So let's talk about the music.
My bro is the bedazzled. You know, I have a bedazzled bro with rhinestones across my shirt. You know,
right?
Hey, a little sparkle's okay if you like it. If you don't like it, then don't sparkle. What? You know,
I'm going to have a sign. I'm going to have a sign. This is my sign when I'm going to say
whatever your sign is, that's cool. And nobody drags anybody to the other side.
A sign. Stop.
Oh, a sign. A sign. Stop. I thought you said a side. No, it you know, people well, you know what? When you're in your teens and your 20s, you're trying to figure out what your sexuality is. Where were you in this world? What am I sexually? You know, I love girls, but there is a little freaky. Wow, that dude's nice. I wonder what it's like if, oh my God, I had a gay thought. You know what I mean? So when you're 30s, 40s, and you get older, you're like, oh, please, been there, done that. You know, one finger, hopefully not two, hopefully not the whole fist.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause this part of the conversation. Okay. Let's have a reset. everything is completely within bounds, but I want to roll us back if I can.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about sexuality, and you were asking me about the sexual stuff. So I thought I'd go down that path.
Okay. Well, we can go down as far as you want, but I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions.
Go down pretty far, but let's not.
So
do
when
it on
when I do this, if you can just allow me to ask you a question, okay? Because we've got a lot of guys and girls who want to hear about some of your early works, how you got into the music scene, because I know that's very interesting. But let me ask you first. Let me ask you. Sorry, I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask this one very specific question. We touched on the success of your early works. Does it make you uncomfortable talking about, are you resentful about talking about the early most successful work, because it's no secret you never got paid for them?
Right, never got paid for my stuff. Not resentful at all. Thank God that people acknowledge what I did, because I didn't get paid, and the only form of payment I get is people like you asking me to interview, or people contacting me through private message on Facebook, Instagram, and asking me a question. So that's how I'm getting paid. So I wish I got paid. Mm-hmm. So if there's any resentment, I wish it was different, but I'm not the only person who didn't get paid, as we all know stories and all that kind of stuff.
Do you want to explain to everybody how that can happen? How you can literally sell millions of copies and not
You're
earn
20
any money
years
from
old and you sign a one-page contract that says, I own you and your grandmother's furniture and your firstborn, and you don't have the money to take it to a lawyer, and you're not sure what you're reading, but somebody at a record company is saying, come on, buddy, sign here. What do you think? What could go wrong? You think I'm going to steal from you? You know what I mean? And, hey, record's out. I don't have any money to pay my rent. Well, here's $100, and don't ever come up here asking for it again. Well, where's my royalties? Oh, those will come a year or 2 or 3 years later. They're supposed to come every couple of months with an accounting every 60, 90 days. And that didn't happen. So I'm not resentful of that. I wish it was a better situation, but I thank God for my records, because I wouldn't be able to do this right now with you if it wasn't for that.
So the hip hop bebop was absolutely huge. It was the foundations for many. I'm from the era. I was that guy at 12 years of age, breakdancing to when that came out. Same as Boogie Down Bronx, So I was around. That is a real strong part of who I am. So to hear your story and you to be as far removed from the perception, and as I say, I didn't really stop and think Man Parrish is really cool. It's only in hindsight I realized I didn't know anything about you. So I want to get to the question I'm trying to ask. When you started to do the promotion work, and you mentioned earlier about how outlandish you were in these urban areas, did you find there was any animosity, any negative feedback?
No, it was more like, well, you got most of the shows back then when I was doing live shows. Back it up. I went to the high school performing arts where the movie Fame was, so I learned about theater. Mm-hmm. Then, while I was there, I used to moonlight at night at the Metropolitan Opera House on stage, because I was 6 foot tall, as a spear holder. So you were, quote, an extra. You're a non-singing role. You were the crowd on stage.
You can tell the story. You can tell the acid story.
Yeah, so I'm 14 years old. I think 14 years old. I had just left home, and I was still trying to go to school. I wasn't good at it, because it's just dysfunctional. So one night at the opera, 14. I lied, by the way. I told everybody I was 18 so I could work there. Guy comes in and goes, hey, I got like 20 hits of organic mescaline. Why don't we all drop acid when we go on stage? And I'm like, okay. So, you have to be there an hour early putting on makeup. So we drop the acid, and we put on these Roman gladiator or whatever it was. It was Aida. Maybe we were the Romans walking through, Egypt at the time. And we're standing backstage in the wings. It's dark. And in front of us is the opening to the stage on the side wings. And it's all orange and beautiful. And there's me and another row in front of me and these horses and a horse-drawn chariot. And the acid kicks into everybody at that moment. So we walk out on stage, and we're marching, doing our thing, walking out on stage. And those were the days when you had incandescent 1,000-watt light bulbs, and the light bulbs are hot. So you walk on that stage, and it's like walking into a low-temperature sauna. It's like, whoa, and it hits you. You're on acid. I'm going, oh my God, the beautiful sunlight and the warm air, and we could feel this warm sand just mushing in between our toes. And when we got off stage, the horses had taken shits on stage, and we walked everybody tracked right through horse shit in sandals. And of course, this little queen with a little bit of, no, you come over here, don't walk on this thing. So they set up buckets of water. Quiet. And while they were singing on stage, we're dunking our feet into the thing, and some seamstress, wardrobe mistress is wiping our feet with the towels and stuff like that. We're tripping our brains out. You know what I mean? And, so I learned about theater. So when it came time to doing the show that I did, I was also a fan of David Bowie. I had been working with Klaus Nomi. Theater, costumes in those days were a very big thing. You had Bowie, you had Elton John, you had new wave groups, Steve Strange, Visage. Everybody was putting on makeup and trying to stand out and be a little bit different. So when I did the shows, that's what I did. I had a Star Wars was starting to happen. I had a Darth Vader-like cape and a tube of dry ice, and I'd stand there, and all this under a blue light, curtain would open, and all this smoke would materialize out of my face and fill the stage. And we were into the Dark Crystal. We thought it was cool. And this big creature would come out and pull it off, and I'd go like that. And, my face would have makeup, and Joey Arias would spray it with glitter. So I looked like a glitter robot. And everybody was, oh, and pull it off. It's like, what the fuck is that? And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get killed. Here I am, twinkle toes, sparkling fabulously, in a hardcore, urban hip hop. It wasn't even hip hop. Well, we talk about hip hop, but the first beat would drop and people would be, yeah, let's go. So no animosity. One time, well, a couple of times on the radio, I was taken out of rotation because somebody figuring it out I'm white. It's not the hard part, but somebody figured I was gay and white, and a couple of black stations pulled me off because they didn't want that kind of thing.
It's not the first time you'd have been pulled off.
What's that?
It's not the first time you'd have been pulled off.
No. Thank God for glory holes, but we'll talk about that later. In fact, for Gay Pride, I just did literally a glory hole installation, a board with a hole in it. And I had a map of the New York City subway system where people used to go in the men's rooms and have sex, and you'd put your ear to the glory hole, and I was telling a story. So with a little Miss Muffet Tuffet little seat. It actually just closed, and one of the archives in New York wants to take it as part of gay history and put it in their permanent collection. But yeah, me and glory holes. Well, that's a whole other thing. We won't talk about that now. But we didn't have there wasn't a lot of animosity. But hip hop bebop, I didn't understand what I did, and I was uncomfortable with it. I didn't read or write music. That started off as a ambient type of track with some beats on it. Is the best way I could explain it, or a tone poem if you're into music. It wasn't meant as a song. It was just like an experimental thing. And it was a cut on the album. And do you want me to tell a story about Hip Hop Bebop, or do you have a question before that?
No,
okay.
no.
So I did a soundtrack for a porn movie, and that's how I got my record deal. And it was a gay porn movie, and I thought, "Ooh, I'm a teenage boy. I'm going to watch porn and make music and jerk off, and this is going to be the best job I ever had." And the guy said, "No. I'm just going to give you, I need 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 3 minutes of music." And it was a song called Heat Stroke. A couple of weeks later, somebody said, "They're playing your song down at the Anvil." Anvil? Oh, that place. Oh, no. Well, go down. They're playing your record. And I said, my record isn't out. I don't have a record. Just go there. And I walk in, and there's a bald, fire-breathing drag queen, spitting out flames in an all-wood bar with sawdust on the floor. I don't know how it didn't go. And then the next show was a guy who'd stuff dildos up his bum and shoot him out over the audience while everybody applauded. And I'm leaning against the back wall going, what the fuck is this? And then I said, I love it. I fucking love it. This is so twisted. I fucking love this. Is like Fellini. This is like, you can't write this stuff. So I'm hanging around and I'm listening to music and standing against the wall, like, don't touch anything, don't look at anybody in the eye. And my song comes on and I climb up the DJ booth and I said, he goes, no requests. And I said, no. He goes, no requests. I said, no, that's my song. He goes, what do you mean? I said, that's from Heatstroke. I wrote that music. Where did you get the record? He said, I had an acetate, a test pressing press. I said, oh my God. He goes, I have a record label that services DJs. It's called DiscoNet. And they would love to put this out because we had talked about it. Why don't you meet me tomorrow? Give me a call. We'll go up there. And I went up there. And it was a guy who had an advertising agency, and he had a broom closet. He was one of the three partners, like a storage closet that he cleared out. And he was doing his hobby in their big table, and he was licking stamps and stuffing disconnect records in, sending them out to DJ pools. And hey, Manny, I'm Captain Mike. Mike Wilkinson, Captain Mike. And you got a really good song here. We want to put it out. Opens the drawer, takes out the one-page contract, and here, you got to sign this. And I went, I got to sign. He goes, well, come on, you want to put a record out, right? You want to hear your music everywhere, right? And I was like, well, try to see a lawyer. He goes, oh, you can't afford a lawyer. Besides, what would I do? Screw you? Come on, Manny. And I went, okay, I signed it. Puts the record out. It does well.
And this was called Heatstroke?
Heatstroke, yeah. It's the last cut on my first album. And it does well in like gay clubs and high energy clubs. And he realizes something's there. So he goes, I'm going to send the kid who works with me in the mailroom here, Raul Rodriguez, to go to your place. He said, any more music? Yes, I got tons of tapes and cassettes and that, full music. Let's go and filter through some stuff and we'll put out an album. And I thought, oh my God, an album. I'm going to get an album. So this song, that song, this piece, that piece, and what was the basic of Hip Hop Bebop, which was I had an 8-channel or 8-track, 8 individual tracks, a reel-to-reel machine in my house, and a Tascam machine and a Tascam mixing board, and 2 or 3 synthesizers. And I played him this thing, and he goes, oh, no, I played him stuff, and he said, what else do you have? I said, well, I kind of have this experimental piece. I think it's kind of cool. And listen, he goes, this is great. We're going to put it on the record. And I was like, all right, it'll be a giveaway track, a filler track. Mm-hmm. He says, I'm going to go to a place called the Fun House tonight, and I want you to come with me because I think it would fit with this kind of a crowd. I was like, okay. I was listening to Kraftwerk at the time. Numbers was out, but I wasn't. I wanted to be Depeche Mode. I wanted to be Erasure. I wanted to be Vince Clarke because I like pop music. I grew up on it, and that's what I like. So we go to the Fun House, and they're playing a totally different kind of music. And we go backstage. It's one of those giant, old school dressing rooms that are like half the size of a house. It's like massive with couches and multiple rooms and a bathroom and a whole kitchen. And John Jellybean Benitez is playing, and there's a girl hanging out next to him with cut-off T-shirt, long black hair, and hairy armpits, and on a T-shirt it says, I'm Madonna. And she wasn't anybody yet. We used to call her the Skank, right? So, but John puts on a record, and then all of a sudden, you're hearing it through the wall because you're not in, it's a DJ booth here, because we're separated from the main room. All of a sudden we hear, oh, and I went, oh my God, what's going on? Fire? What's going on? And he said, no. That's what happens when people like records. They, towards the record. They like it. I said, you know what? Why don't we take that track, which turned into Hip Hop Be Bop? Why don't we have a little fun? We're going to bark on the record, ask John Benitez if he will play it, and we'll just have a lot of fun for one night. He'll put it on, the record will bark at them, they'll bark back, case closed. You know, we had our little fun. That's what happened with Hip Hop Be Bop. But then they said, it's doing really well, we're going to put it out as a single. And I went, no, you're not. I Want Together Again, which is a little, you know, erasure pop song that has a verse and a chorus and you can sing it. Hip Hop Be Bop doesn't have anything on it. It's just, hey, 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 oh, oh, don't stop, bebop. And I thought, you can't put this out. And I got into a huge fight with them. And they were like, okay, we won't put it out. But they knew I wasn't going to those clubs. I was hanging out in new wave clubs and discos. And it blew up. One of the reasons it blew up is the president of president. It was just two people in the record company. This guy and the male, you know, the kid who worked for the mail. He was taking bags of cocaine and MDA and putting them in the vinyl record cover with a note said, I've taken care of you, now you take care of me. It was like the mafia. And he would send them out to billboard reporters and to radio stations, and they'd open up the record, and out would come a little bag of coke, you know. So some people started playing it, but he was very clever. He only sent it to DJs that report to the charts. So it started climbing the charts. And then they started calling around the radio stations, and the radio stations started playing it. And it took me years and years. I walked away from the record company about a year later. Years afterwards, I didn't understand what Hip Hop Be Bop was. It was just an experimental piece of music with some dog barking on it and some, you know, hey ho, and stuff like that. So you asked me about resentment. Some people think I resent that. No, I didn't understand it, and I understand it now. But back then, it was like, that's not a song. They're going to laugh at me. People are going to laugh at me. So that's the issue I've had with Hip Hop Be Bop. It's not really an issue, but that's what some people don't understand. I thought it wasn't real music.
But it's still quite electronic with the noises and the way that it was put together. But then Boogie Down Bronx was so far removed from the pretty much the rest of the music that you made.
Well, so I was doing a lot of session work for Alicia Baby Talk. I mean, we were doing records, COD in the Bottle, IRT Watch the Closing Doors, Two Sisters, High Noon. I mean, Two Sisters is me, High Noon, if you know that record. One of the guys at the record label, they were hiring people. There's some queen. He said, oh, you and Raul, you're like two sisters. I said, Raul, let's do a group called Two Sisters. And we would go in the studio at 8 o'clock at night and finish the record, write it from scratch, have a girl sing it at 1 o'clock in the morning. And by 8 in the morning, you know, we'd pay $100, $200 for the recording. We'd have a record. So I was starting to learn how to make music. So Boogie Down Bronx was sort of just a track we were kind of messing around with. And there was a kid, John Carter, who lived in my neighborhood and knew Boogie Down Bronx. And he used to sit on my doorstep every once in a while and at my house. And when I'd come home, it's like, oh, that kid's sitting there. He's gonna rap. I said, watch this, Raul. Hey, John, how you doing? This is my friend Raul. My Man Parrish and cool Raul, cooler than the water in the swimming pool. He said, all right, bro, that's great. We go upstairs and we're doing this track. And I guess my window was open. So he would like sit on the steps and kind of listen to the music being made. And, you know, and I said, maybe we could put that kid on this record. You know what I mean? We've never done a rhyme before. Let's put our, that day it was a rhyme. It wasn't even a rap, you know, let's put a rhyme on here. So I said, let's see if he's down there. And I lean out the window. I look down. Hey, John, come on up. Door's open. He comes up. I said, listen, I don't know if I'm going to get paid. I haven't been paid on anything. If you want to be on a record, I just want you to know before you say yes, you may make something, you may make nothing. I haven't made anything, and I've worked on like 20 records so far, other than getting $50 here and there, you know, to pay for the tape to record on. You know, if you want to do it, he goes, yeah. Sets up a microphone, lays it down in one take. Right, what you hear is just live in one take. And then I thought, well, it's Man Parrish. I got to do something a little twisted. So I took the output of his vocal on track one, put it through my vocoder, which if guys you don't know what it is, it's a synthesizer. It turns your voice into a synthesizer, a talking synthesizer. You've heard them everywhere. and record that back on too. Track 2, so Boogie Down Bronx is the way to be, and that became Boogie Down Bronx. All that stuff was done in my bedroom. I mean, Boy George worked in my bedroom. The Village People came to my bedroom. I did so many records out of my bedroom. I mean, this is a bedroom in my house. That's, so I don't go into those big studios. I mean, I did the Michael Jackson stuff and the Gloria Gaynor and some of that stuff, but I didn't need to because I'm a gear whore. I got tons of gear. So I have the same thing that the studios have. I could just sit here in my underwear or with my balls hanging out and do music, which is more fun.
My kind of guy.
Well, when you're done, you can turn on Pornhub and not even get out of your chair. It's great. Your screens are on, So
okay, so we got a great insight there. We have a few people inside the chat who are listening now. I'm not sure if I don't want to give you another avenue where you can start talking to these people, reading their conversations. A little later on, I'm going to give you a link, and you can say hi to these guys because they would love to get.
Just give me 1 or 2 or 3 questions. I'll try to answer them as quick as possible.
Okay, so if anyone's got any questions in the pressure chat, then fire them over. What I want to do now then is to find out what happened after, because as I say, I'm not ashamed to say the progression of your career, apart from hearing Lenny's interview, was a little
well, a lot of people think a lot of people think I did Hip Hop Bebop, Boogie Down Bronx, and then just disappeared. But because of the success of that, I was working with a girl, Elektra Records. The president was coming to sign her, and she said, "Could you come in the studio with me? Because and David Bowie's manager wants to be my manager. Can you come in the studio with me, hold my hand, make sure I sound good?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." Sandy Dillon. I said, "Sure, no problem." And I'm sitting in the studio, and she's singing, and the lights are out, so she can't see the president of Elektra Records. And they walk in, and, "Hi, this is Bobo, this is Man Parrish." And they go, "What? And they tell Bowie's manager, "Come here outside." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." I said, "You're doing great, Sandy. Keep singing." And they come back in. Bowie's manager says, "Come out in the hallway." And he says, "Would you? They want to sign you." I said, "What?" Because I walked away from the record company. "They want to sign you. They think you're going to be really big. We're partners, 50-50, right?" No, that's illegal. A manager in the States could only be 10 or 20% by law. So 50-50, that's what he did to David Bowie. And my 50% paid for everything, while his 50% went in his pocket. So I got a record deal, and I did the wrong kind of music. He said, "You can't do electronic music. You have to do guitar David Bowie music," which I did. And of course, they freaked out and didn't like it, and dropped me. But from that point on, I played Studio 50. My mother died. I lost my loft. The record company dropped me. And I was playing Studio 54 that night, coming down from the ceiling. It was a huge party with a lot of famous people in it. And I went, like 2 days later, I was in such a depression. And for about 10 years, I stopped working on music because I had done all this stuff. I was all over the radio. I had worked with all these other records for $50, $100. And if you go to my website, the music isn't up yet, but if you go to manparrish.com and click on radio, every 154 tracks there are mine. I played and scored, or I played all the parts and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing music, but I'm not making money. And I thought, the hell with this. I'm out of the music business. So I had worked with Michael Jackson. I worked with Boy George. I worked with Gloria Gaynor and blah, 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 blah. So a lot of people think I didn't do anything, but I wound up getting back into music and producing again. And now with today's technology, I have my own record label. I don't need to kiss anybody's ass or somebody to tell me it's good enough. So I put out my own music.
We'll talk about some of the newer music because I've been perusing it. Our friend Garth, he asks, do you still have any of the masters of the David Bowie stuff?
So I have the original samples for Hip Hop Bebop because one day I took a bag and I went into the studio while they were recording, and I slipped into the little section where they keep all the 24-track masters, and I stole that one, and I couldn't. Boogie Down Bronx was done at home on an track half inch. I may have that master somewhere, but Hip Hop Bebop, I took the 24 track master and I went to a studio and I took all the samples off. So I have the original sample. I'm going to offer it as a sample pack. Look, I'm not making money on that stuff. There's a whole other story where this company from Canada illegally bought my stuff and they've been selling it for 20 years and I went to court, blah, blah, blah. I had my rights back, but I tried to get my money back and it didn't work out. But if I'm not making money on it, I might as well just sell a sample pack with all the samples of Boogie Down Bronx. And I'm thinking of selling streams. You have the stems, you have the voice stem, you have the bass stem, the drums, the keyboard, and you could do your own mixes. Fucking put it out. If I'm not making music on it, money on it, you might as well put out some bootlegs and some cool versions of, what we're doing. So fuck it.
Garth was asking about masters of the David Bowie stuff.
Oh, I didn't work. I'm sorry about that. Well, that's my stuff. Never mind. I didn't work with David Bowie musically. His manager.
You just stole his pants.
Right. No. I think I know what he's talking about. There's a video on YouTube where I was doing a track under David Bowie's manager. And it's really kind of Boogie Down Bronx, kind of weird. If you go to manparrish.com, you go on videos rare. It's me, 23 years old, looking like a little innocent cherub. You know what I mean? And you can hear the track in the background. So because the manager was paying for it, the masters went to him. At the end of the day, we'll keep it in our vault. So I don't have that.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the future. You're hoping you were, and you'll be able to explain this better than myself, with your trademark, registering your name as your trademark, and how hopefully things are going to come good for you.
Well, they are good for me because I own all of my music. And one of the things I said to my lawyer is, I can't take this anymore. I'm tired of getting screwed. I said, what can I do? He says, you can always do a trademark. So if you're a musician out there and your stuff is being stolen and you have a little bit of success, Prince changed his name to a sign. That's how he got out of his contract. So there are ways to get around things, right? You could have writer's cramp or you're stuck in a contract and you can't write, or you could change your name to something else and then your contract is no longer valid. In the contracts, it says, the name Man Parrish or Manuel Parrish or Manny Parrish or any other name thereof. So I couldn't change my name to Madonna because that's a name thereof. But if you change it to a symbol, that's not a name thereof. So that's how he got around it. I did something different. I did a trade many years, 10 years ago. I did a trademark. And if you take my music and you put it out, you don't pay me. Legally in the U.S., I can only go back 6 years and collect royalties. So if you made $1 million in 2001, I have no rights to that by the fucking law. It's horrible because the laws are written by, what do you call it? People that pay off senators and all that kind of stuff. They knew this was coming. They did it so they only have a 6-year window. And of course, a record gets less and less as further away you get from where that point, that peak is. So a trademark goes back to the very first time that you've used your name publicly. And in my case, Andy Warhol gave me my name, the famous artist with the suitcase. And I was printed in a magazine interview back in 1978 or something like that, 1979 or 1980. So that my trademark protects me, anything going back to them. And you can't get around trademark issues. Royalties, well, he meant to sign it, he didn't say it. But if you're not Coca-Cola, you can't use Coca-Cola without their express permission. It doesn't make a difference if you're Coca-Cola or Man Parrish. Somebody can't use my name without permission. And I did 2 trademarks. There's a guy, Man Parrish, Parish, that's around in France, I think, and he's done some interviews as me. You know what I mean? So I did it. You can't put it on a record. You can't sell merchandise, and you can't appear live, which I actually had to use once. Somebody booked me someplace, sold tickets that I was going to a rare performance, and I was performing or DJing somewhere in Miami, and I had to say, I got a trademark. That's something like $125,000 each time you fuck that up. You want to go there? And I could have collected the money, but it's like, I'm not going to chase somebody. It's like, take my name down and make it, put up an announcement. Not that I canceled, making me look like an asshole, but you have to make it look like it's your fault that I canceled. I mean, I was nice to the guy. You know what I mean? I could have said, fuck you, talk to my lawyer. I said, look, let's do this the right way. And you thought you were going to get over, but you didn't. So that's how I protect myself now. I read and write my own contracts. I just did a thing with Spotify for Jean-Michel Basquiat. They were promoting his recent show in New York and used my music. And now they're going to use me as a theme song on one of their podcasts. So, which is Hop Be Bop, Bronx. I can't remember which one. But I read and write my own contracts. I learned through the school of hard knocks. And one more thing, if you're a songwriter out there, a DJ or something, there's a book called This Business of Music. It's on Amazon. You can get it online. It's the Bible to understand what is music, what is publishing, what my rights are. And if you don't care about doing that, then you need to get somebody you incredibly trust that knows that, because there's two sides to the music business. There's the business of contracts, and then there's the creative side, artists. Very few people can do both. I'm forced to, but you gotta protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned then about a possible gig. I think it was Miami. You said, have you ever been tempted to go back on the road and so you can start getting some money for these live gigs, festivals, and things like that?
I would love to do it. I haven't done shows in 30 years, so I would love to do it. But then I was preparing on doing it. I actually have live versions of the stuff, my first album, and some new stuff to play live, minus vocals and some keyboard parts so I can get there. And then COVID happened. You know what I mean? So I'm not just getting on stage with a guitar and singing in front of a microphone. I've got to have dancing girls and flowing water fountains and smoke machines, you know what I mean? And glitter that drops down from the ceiling. So it's not as easy as, it's not as, I mean, when I used to perform, it was like, a smoke machine, a couple of lasers, some balloons, and glitter, literally, and then we all had makeup and costumes and all that kind of stuff. So can you only imagine what a monster I'm going to be now? You know what I mean? I come from theater, so I want to put on a show. I just don't want to sit there and go, man, or hey, ho. I want lights and all that. But I know a way to do it myself.
Right.
I had a party for 13 years where I was a DJ. So you're a DJ. I learned how to DJ. And I put, the moving head computerized lights. I bought them for a storefront, a little tiny storefront, and it was lit up like Christmas. And I used to buy lasers that were illegal. I used to get them from China. They're so strong they would burn your retina. You were illegally allowed to. But when you walked in there, it was like, oh my God, this is like an acid trip. So I know how to program lights and lasers, and I know how to now synchronize them to the music. So I can have a master file with some of the background stuff and the rest of it played live and everything moving in sync. So if it comes around to it, yeah. But that stuff takes a couple of $100,000 just to
I was
put
just
together.
about to say, you're not about to accept a few grand to fly and be on stage for 15 minutes.
I mean, so I was road manager for Village People for 6 years. Even me, a singer, and one or two people like helping carry and put all this stuff together. And taking that stuff through customs is a nightmare. They could delay you a week or two, so you have to rent locally. I mean, it would probably be $10,000 just to set up on a stage somewhere before that. That's without travel. Then you need round trip tickets. And, I'm a plus size model, so I don't sit in economy seats. I just need a slightly wider business class seat. But, round trip tickets, $5,000 from New York. That's just to get my fat ass over there. So,
it's happening.
I mean, I could work as a hooker, in the evenings and make some of it back. But at my age, I'm going to be working in nursing homes. You know what I mean? The half line. But hey, so $1 $1, right?
Exactly.
But,
so you talking about that the early days of
you. Here's the other thing. I don't want to charge $500 or $300. The reason why concerts are $300, $250, $500 is because musicians are not making money selling MP3s. So when was the last time you bought maybe vinyl is different, but when was the last time you bought an MP3 or something off of iTunes? You're probably streaming it. And the royalty rate on streaming is 0.0025 cents a stream when it used to be 4 cents a stream in the old days. So you could have a million streams and probably make, $300 or whatever the math works out to be or something like that. So people have to charge huge amounts of money. I'm friends with the B-52s. You know what I mean? You go see B-52s, I think it's 75 to 150 or 250, wherever, depending on where you're playing. I don't want to charge some crazy amount of money. I want to keep it at $100 if I can, $100, and below if I can, so more people could see.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you play live? There you
That's
go.
right.
Why don't I do vinyl? Why don't I do vinyl? Yeah, you're a vinyl person.
I know why. It's just not even worth it, is it? You're not getting in that hole.
1,000 records for $2,000 or $3,000. I'm between New York and Florida, and then I got you buy a copy or 5 copies. So I got to take that to the post office, and it weighs a pound or two, and that's going to be $38. You know what I mean? And then by the time and then you're stuck with the 600 copies that you didn't sell on vinyl because people are streaming it. What are you doing? You're having it for breakfast. What's for lunch? Your album. And you can't return them. So I would love to do vinyl if someone else pays for it.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, you
just ship it and shrink wrap it and print it.
You were mentioning about the transatlantic flights, so on and so forth. I'm going to reel back, remind everybody again, manparrish.com, or find him on YouTube, because some of the stories of those early days of the travels are incredible. I don't want to hear the stories now. People need to hear all of those snippets.
No, you go to the website.
Check them out. There's some incredible stuff. But let's bring it back to the juice, the music. As I say, I've been having a look through some of the releases over the last 10 years or so. A few different albums that you have up on iTunes, for example. Mm-hmm. One album, as such, your Art of Pop album, like a covers album, mm-hmm. things like that. Mm-hmm. When they were finished and when they were put out to the world, how were they received? How were you? How did you feel they were received?
I think they're doing actually pretty well, because you buy licenses on all those stuff. So anybody can do any song anywhere legally. You could do a Beatles song. They can't refuse you as long as you buy a license and notify them that you're selling your records, and the royalties will go to them. That's fine. I'm down with that. I love pop music. When I get my reports from ASCAP, which is radio, or Sound Exchange, which is internet, I go through them. I'm in Russia. I'm in Latvia. I'm in, Taiwan. I'm in these like Burma. There's 2 songs, it's got played. So a lot of these songs are songs that people like. I like them. I'm not hooked on 80s stuff, but I grew up in the area and I love a good 80s track. And I thought, why don't we do this album? We wound up doing 30 of them, put them out on Art of Pop Volume 1, 2, and 3, and they're remakes. And they're doing pretty well. They get played on a lot of internet radio stations. They throw them in the mix. So you're sitting in an elevator and it may come on or something like that. You know what I mean? And I get slivers of a penny for it, but I'm even on airlines. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, because I'm on 135 digital outlets. I'm like, 130, I don't know, 135. Well, their colleges have private audio station, not college radio, but they have private streaming stations now off of a server, airlines, and your headset. All these like little closed things, plus satellite radio and all that. All that leads up to a lot. So the Art of Pop is volumes 1, 2, and 3. Some of those tracks are doing really, really good. Mm-hmm. I'm not making millions of dollars because they're streaming, but I'm getting what I just posted it. I had 47,000 plays off of iTunes alone last week. Is it week or month or something like that? And iTunes send me a 1 million, marker and all that. And then there's Spotify, and then there's Amazon Music, and we can go down Deezer and all that. So I'm probably getting 500,000 plays a month or 1 million plays a month, across the board on different things. Because I'm not only doing, people know me as hip hop bebop, but I do pop music, I do classical music. I had an
film
ambient
scores.
Yeah, film scores and people, ambient sleep therapy. I put that up, and people putting it on loop and falling asleep to it and going, I never slept better in my life. You know what I mean? So you hold down a note for an hour.
Really?
No, it's not that simple. You know what I mean? I'm one of the few musicians that is in the prestigious Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection with music. It doesn't happen, but I did my Hop Be Bop movie and 2 other film scores. The curator happens to be a Man Parrish fan and asked me to sign his record, which blew me away. He goes, something happened incredible. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you have 3 tracks in the New York City Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection. I went, what? He goes, no one can ever take it out. You're in there for eternity. I'm like, what? He goes, I love your music, and we don't take music, so I had to take the film scores, the snippets of the film scores. And I said, oh my God, that's incredible. I said, well, I'm doing more than that. I'm doing like sound art installations. He goes, would you like to do a sound installation at MoMA? And I went, are you kidding me? He goes, no. So I did an audio installation, a sound installation at the Museum of Modern Art. It ran for, how long did that show run? For a month. And I asked the question, can music be art? When you go in a museum, you see pictures on the wall, but can the sound filling the room also be art? Does it have to only be visual? Could it be coming in from your ears? So on my social media, I have Man Parrish artists because I'm not a musician. I can't sit down and hang out and groove and jam with musicians because I don't know a C from an F sharp. I mean, I know where they're on a piano keyboard, but that's about it. So I've been doing art installations, film scores, ambient music, classical pieces. My friend Klaus Nomi, he sings opera like a girl, but he's a guy and looks like a space alien. So I'm rescoring all of his first his albums and stuff like that. It's almost completed. So I didn't go anywhere. I just didn't do more street music because I wasn't getting paid from it. But when music's inside of you, you can't stop.
No.
I woke up in the 2:00 in the morning the other night and was like, oh wow, if I take this track and I bounce it to that and I add a little of that, and I'm like, go back to sleep. But that's this thing that you get in your head. You know what I mean? It's like, you gotta do it. And here's one really cool thing. I am now experimenting with cutting edge artificial intelligent voice. So I work with singers. I'm not a very good singer. I can make myself sing. I can auto-tune. But there are some very specialized programs that literally sound like a human being singing. You can't tell the difference. So I now have a male singer and a female singer, and I can basically do anything I want now. And it's fucking accurate. Really? Without the attitude. It's fabulous. Sing it, bitch.
And the overheads. So 2 questions coming from that little chunk of information you gave me there. What are your sleep patterns like now as you're getting older with regards to the creative process? And secondly, how far up the celebrity scale, hanging about, living large, would you put yourself? What is life like for you right now?
Okay, so the first question, my sleep for many, 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 many years was poor because I had a lot of issues. I was physically, mentally, sexually abused for many years as a child. Go to Man Parrish. I don't talk about a lot of them there because I got taken off, but they were not, my parents spanked me. They were bad. I have a scar on my wrist where my mother threw me out in the snow in my underwear. It was, minus something, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to break the window to get back into the house. So I had more issues than Reader's Digest. So sleep, panic attacks, trust, all that. My mental state wasn't great. I wasn't violent. I didn't act out. I swallowed a lot of stuff. I felt inferior. I felt like a piece of shit. My mother used to tell me when people die, it's my fault. At 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, it fucks you up. So now this whole thing that happened with this doctor in this hospital raping me for years, part of the settlement is they had to give me therapy. And I was like, I don't need therapy. Best thing that I ever had in my life, because now I tell my therapist, I came out of the darkness and I'm in the sunshine. Metaphorically, I can be who I am with issues as fucked up as I am, you know, or as fabulous as I am, and accept it. You know, I couldn't accept the good stuff. I'd only accept the bad stuff. Oh, Man Parrish, you did a really great record. No, don't say that to me. That's not me. So I sleep better now because my brain is in a better place. You know, as far as where I am on the celebrity thing, I don't know. You know, I'm 64 years old now. And someone said, you don't look 64. And I said, oh, I'm a gay 64. You know, I don't have kids and college tuitions to pay. You know what I mean? So I'm a fabulous 64. It's not about me having a hit record out now. It's about my legacy, because I'm not going to live to 120. Maybe I will. Maybe there'll be genetic engineering in the next 20 years and I take the pill and I'll live to 120. I'm more interested in doing music now that I like to do, that people can listen to. In the old days, I put on headphones in the rock and roll days, and you put the needle down on the record and listen to the album, flip it over it, and listen to the rest of the album. And it took you on a trip. So I like to do music like that. I love headphone listening. You're a DJ, you listen to it. And most people do. So I'm very interested in stereo imaging and all that. So I'm not interested in being, well, I'd love to be famous, and I want, you know, HBO or Sky or Netflix to pick up my story because I have a great idea for it. You know what I mean? Turn it into a Stranger Things kind of multi-episode kind of thing. But I'm not worried about being famous. A lot of people heard of me. They're not sure who I am. And I hope the stories will help straighten that out. But somewhere along the line, if 25 or 50 years from now, a kid goes, oh, I want to do synthesizer music. And someone says, oh, you should check out this guy, Man Parrish. He was back in the very beginning, and they're saying he's the godfather of dance music and, you know, influenced all these people. Then I did my job. So it's my legacy that I'm more interested now at this age. Hey, listen, I could look like Mike Myers and put on a tube top and gold, you know, lame things and, you know, do a disco act with a gold chain and to be hysterical with my belly hanging out. But in reality, nah, I know my place. You know what I mean?
And so what about your friends?
My stories are very important right now to help people.
What about friends and acquaintances? Do you still keep in touch with?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those people. I mean, Steve Strange is dead. The Village people I know, Gloria Gaynor was a camel toe that came and passed. I mean, Michael Jackson's gone, but you know, I can't. Madonna was like, I was on the English papers as sleeping with Madonna, so we're not exactly best friends. But I mean, they know me, I know them. If I could pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, you know. Not you, Alexis. I can't say that word. Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't think there's anything you haven't said during this interview.
You know, they say they have your recordings. I'm sure the machine that I'm on is just smoking, you know, the stuff that this listens to, you know. What do you mean, keeper? Please,
talking about music,
are you kidding me?
Talking about productions, have you ever thought, you're clearly satisfied with what you're doing. Have you ever thought of collaborating with younger producers?
I do on occasion. A lot of stuff you guys don't know about. People will hit me up on Facebook and, you know, can you listen to my track? Can you help me out? And I'm like, well, you know, it's $10,000 for a producer to produce it if you really want the real deal. But let me see. Okay, I like it. Yeah, all right, let's do it. You know, I'll do it for nothing. Just put my name on it. So, you know,
you still not learned after all these years.
No, it's different. If I was more of a prick, I'd be more famous publicly. I'm very well known in the music business, but I don't like. I remember very early on, people would walk in. I'm Madonna. Oh, I'm this person, that person. I think you're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? I lived through sexual, mental, and physical abuse. Homeless, living in the street, you know, with a blanket over me, didn't have a place to stay that night on a park bench crying, you know what I mean? And you're a little spoiled prick or bitch, or you're rapping because your mother, you know, was a junkie. I'm like, you don't even know what the fuck I went through. And for you to come, I can't stand when people have attitudes like that. So I never did that. So that drives me crazy. So I would have been in a better position if I'd been, well, kiss my ring. So when somebody comes up and says, I need your help, I have compassion. I'm like, all right, it sucks. I could probably make it better. Or it really sucks and I don't even know what the fuck to do with this. There were some people that I've done stuff with and they were singing like this. And I thought, oh my God, what did I get involved in? But I used my brain and I turned out and made a song out of it. So because, all right, I have another record under my belt, but look what I gave this person, their hopes, their dreams. They have a record out, and they told their friends and it's up on iTunes and you know what I mean? So I get paid like that. Mm-hmm. I know everybody make money. My parents died. I sold my house in Brooklyn for a lot of money. I moved down to Florida. I still have an apartment in Manhattan on 10th Street. And I bought this and a couple of rentals, locally. The money you sell, when you sell a house in Manhattan, you can buy 3 or 4 properties down here in Florida. So I get Social Security because I'm an old fuck. And I get rent, from tenants. So I can sit in this freaking room all day and do music. So it worked out really nice. You know what I mean? I have an RV or caravan, as you call it. I'm like Shirley Partridge and the Partridge Family driving that bus across the country, from gas station to truck stop to truck stop. No, just kidding. But I get to see the world. I'm in a great place mentally. I'm doing music that I want. And fuck you if you can't take a joke,
That's the important thing. I made a comment very similar earlier, completely different scales of the spectrum. I was a touring DJ for many years, and then I stopped because I just wasn't getting the satisfaction from it. And now I'm for many years now, I've been here at home with my wife, my kids, just so happy.
Wait, you're straight? No, I'm just kidding.
No. Well, kind of. You said about the 95%.
No, my question is how many fingers is the next question. So
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah. I know. Reach around. I know about the reach arounds and all that. So,
I was getting to the point about your happiness inside fulfilled, and me reaching out to you and you just being so willing to, Andy,
but
whatever you
importantly,
need, brother.
that happiness comes from you. A lot of people, including myself, used to look for happiness. I'm Man Parrish, right? I'm doing good, right? I was a good guy today. I didn't kill anybody or run over any kittens or anything like that. I am, and I wouldn't get answers. And therapy helped me go, well, it's inside of you. And I went, inside of you. And she, come on, let's dig a little. Let's dig a little. I was like that at therapy. And it's like, wait a minute. Maybe this noise, maybe me being successful, maybe me wanting to do something is broken in here or just not. The neurons are almost connected. These haven't made the connection yet. One thing that the therapist taught me, if you think differently and think over and over and over again, which is almost like brainwashing, you literally rewire the neurons in your brain to make a connection. So if something's not working, if a drug habit, a bad thought or whatever, if you keep thinking what you want it to be the right way, whatever that is for you, your brain literally builds the neural pathway so that becomes the proper way. And once I learned that, it's called cognitive behavior therapy. She said to me, I'm going to teach you CBT. I said, cock and bull torture? She said, no, CBT. I have a great therapist because she laughs, because I talk to her like that. She goes, no! So she's a lot of fun. But by working on yourself, you can change how you think. And once you change how you think, things start flowing. I'm a little bit of a hippie, you know what I mean? So if you're going with the grain, the universe flows. And if you're against the grain, you wind up in shit. So if you're stepping in shit, it's up here. It's not the world isn't doing this to you. It's this that's doing it to you because you could think your way out of that pile of shit. I don't get a chance and I'm just fucked up. Well, that's the noise that's keeping you down. You know what I mean? Why are other people making it? You're black, you're white, you're Spanish, you're gay. Well, why are black, white, Spanish, gay people making it and millionaires? And it's not about the money. Money is not a thing that makes you happy because I was around super rich people and super famous people. Money is something that happens as a result of you being on the right track mentally. It took me years and years and years. You worry about money, money stops flowing. All right, it'll work itself out. Let me focus on doing my music or what I'm meant here to be. I look at it like a piggy bank. Energy in, energy out. Money, work in, money out. So I'm not rich. I have somehow or another bills get paid. I don't know how the fuck this happens, but I have a Tesla. You know what I mean? I mean, shit, like, hey man, here's $10,000 for doing what? Like, what? Oh, that's right. I needed $10,000 to do that. Wow. So it's nothing special. It's nothing that I can't do that anybody else can do. But when you're on the right track, and that is due to your thinking, shit flows and life gets better. And I'm much better now than before. I'm kind of sad. I miss my childhood. From my 20s to my 40s or 50s, I was in a bad place, a dark place, and I lost that much of my life. But I'm not lying here. Oh, what did happen to me? I'm like, fuck, man. I got a boner. Let's do something. You know what I mean? Let's get out there and fuck something.
It's such a really, really inspiring story. And as I say, I was incredibly humbled how receptive you were when I reached out to you. You don't know me from Adam. You don't know the first thing about me. And you were just so gracious with your time, with your energy.
I got interviewed from a guy who was, what was his name? He was on MTV Europe. He's got a strange name. Steve Spike or something like that. He was the big presenter in the 80s. And true, he interviewed me, and then afterwards I went and I looked it up. He interviewed the Dalai Lama and President Clinton and Boris Johnson and all these people, and he saw my stories and interviewed me, and I was like, wow, blew me out. So I'm open to anybody. I'm open to telling my stories, and this isn't about me trying to sell records or get people to my website, because I don't get any money off of that. I wish you would visit it. It'd be fun, enjoy it. There's lots of fun things to do. I even have an 808 drum machine you can play. You can play centerbeat on my website. I made it fun, and you can see my music videos. It's more about, it's like a hidden message. I'm here for a sneaky reason. I'm trying to tell you, just be you. Fuck it. If your parents, your friend, your girlfriend, you're in a miserable relationship, figure your way out of it, or put up a thing and do what you want to do. If you're working in a shoe store and you want to be a musician, do the shoe store, but be the musician. And somehow or another, that transformation will happen. Just listen to what's inside of you and do it. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong. You always hear, make a wish, your wish will come true. Well, that wish is just what your insides are. And your insides are pretty pure and true and don't get corrupted by the news being on or something you read in the newspaper or somebody bitching at you. Follow that thing. As long as it's in a mass murder or a child molester, you're probably on the right track. And if it's those things, you can get help and come out of that. You know what I mean? I believe it. So I don't think people are bad. I think people are good. The answer is inside of you. You know what I mean? But in a way, it is. You just have to shut up for long enough and listen to it. All that other stuff is noise. And I'm not immune to noise. I get neurotic myself. It's like, oh, I didn't say that. Shut up, Manny. Shut up. Okay. Oh, all right. But what about the shut up? Okay, be quiet. Okay, now what do you want to do? Well, I'd like to make music, but no, shut up. That's the past. That's the all right. Look over here, do the music, and the music happens, and that stuff just fades away. It's just a little more noise. So my secret mission is just tell some stories and show what I'm doing is no different than anybody else, but I've said fuck it, and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And because of that, things happen. You get a house, you get a car, you get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend with a boyfriend on the side. You know what I mean? And you pretend it's a tranny, but it's really got a dick. I gotta say, a friend of mine knows that I'm gay, and he goes, "Well, I have to admit, I like trannies," and I'm like, "Okay, that's great." He goes, I said, "But what do you do about the dick?" He goes, "Oh, you just ignore that part." And I'm like, what? How do you get, okay, well, that's your thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, whatever you tell yourself, just be true.
Yeah. Everything that you've, apart from the tranny bit, everything that you've said, I really relate to.
Yeah. Okay, folks. Everybody who's listening, this is what they always say. Show me your browser history. Can you put the screen on right now? Let me see your browser history.
All you're going to see is cables off Amazon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Was it big butts, feet? Large nipples. Listen. I've been around the block. I've seen and done things. I've been in sex parties with 200 naked people. I ran those parties. I had there's a bar called The Cock in New York. It had a red rooster outside, and everybody referred to it as The Cock, and it became known as The Cock. And I had a party called Sperm, which was supposed to be like an art party. I put up different decorations. I was the longest running party for 15 years. I DJ'd it. And each week there were different decors. We'd find fake fur and plastic and garbage in the street and turn it into fabulous art. And I'd light it with the lasers and the lights and all that kind of stuff. And that bar had a dark room, a back room. So we inherited that. And people would come fool around and then come for the party. And I mean, we wound up having naked go-go boys, but girls would come into the club to see the guys doing the helicopter. You know what I mean? Because it was Sunday night after midnight. We knew the cops weren't going to come. We kept the drugs out, except for one guy. We had one drug dealer that we allowed in, and we told him, do your business outside. You can come back in. You can do business in this club. But if anybody else comes, make sure you tell us, because we don't want the drug wars to erupt. So cops knew what was going on. They even said to it, we know what's going on in there. He goes, as long as you keep it in here, I don't have to write a report to my superior. I don't care what you do. And I remember you're a DJ. I remember DJing once, and I look to the side, and there's a guy walks by with a drink in his hand, and guys and girls are in the place, and he's got sneakers on and nothing else. He's completely naked. And I'm DJing, going, what the fuck? And security comes over to me because I ran the night. I had to say so, and he says, "That guy's walking around naked. What should we do?" I said, "Are you kidding me? It's fucking amazing. Don't you know that people are going to go home to work tomorrow morning and go, I went to Man Parrish's sperm party and there's a guy walking around naked." He goes, "It's more than one guy. There's 3 or 4 of them. And they're all just kind of like standing there, and talking about, what they saw on, Housewives of Beverly Hills last night." And I'm like, so he comes back and he says, "I'm sorry, I didn't ask. Is it okay?" I said, "It's totally okay." And he said, I said, "Bring friends." He goes, "Really? I'm part of a nudist group and we'd love to show up." I said, "Fine." And occasionally they would come in, and people, you're standing there, you're dancing, and a guy walks by, holding a little straw and a cup, and he walks by with a drink, completely butt-ass naked. But that's why I was the longest running party for continuous running party in New York for 15 years. It wasn't just that, because we'd have live artists and painters and things like that. But it was that kind of freedom and that kind of, it's okay as long as you're not hurting somebody, because you're really not. I didn't care about the morals or what people said you can and can't do, right? And it became a place for the mentally insane, because we attracted that too. But there was performance. If anybody's still listening, if you go to manparrish.com, you click on the art tab, and in there's sperm. And there's 2 videos. The first video is the party, and you will see this madness. I got smart because I had an infrared camera, and I'd walk around filming it. There's Amanda Lepore and Sophia Lamar. They're both post-trans, so they had the pussies done. For my birthday, they sat on stage on bar stools and pulled 30 feet of scarves out of their pussies as a gift to me. It was wackadoo. 500-pound
Happy birthday.
Queen would sit on, a 500-pound drag queen would sit on a parakeet perch, swinging back and forth. One day she came and she said, "What do I do?" I said, "You have a bra." I said, "Get 2 cans of sprayed cheese, cut the nipples out, and I want you to put a bag of crackers in your purse. Go up to somebody, because you're 500 pounds, tap on the shoulder and say, 'Honey, you look hungry.' Dig in your purse, go like this, and give them some cheese on crackers." And, shit like this happened every week. Now, it was so famous and popular, I'm doing art installations in galleries with the sperm, and now they're pieces of art. And I'm I was invited to Art Basel, which is a big thing in Miami. I did a gallery in New York City for Art Week. We took over the whole basement of the gallery and transformed it into another place with mazes and stuff like that. And now I'm getting invited to another one. So, yeah, just, do your fucking thing. It sounds crazy because
I love how you bring it back around. You've always got a starting point on your
because I'm making a
conversation.
point. I'm just not running my lips for nothing. I'm making a point that just be your fucking self, man. And who cares if you close the door and put on lipstick or you like cars, or you like, you're into some nerdy code or whatever. Do it. Be the fucking best at it. You know what I mean? Or be the second best. If you can't be the first, be the second best. And if it doesn't pay you money, figure out a way to make money something else. But when that's done, come back home and do your thing, because that's how you're going to be successful. And it's not even about being successful. It's about being at peace and happy with yourself. Because when we come into this world, you're really alone. We don't have a MIDI cable or a USB cord connecting us. So when I say I'm sad, you've been sad, but you don't know how sad I've been. So you're really this little island, and you die alone. You don't die holding 10 people's hand unless you're in a cult and we all die together. But other than that, it's you. It's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. So what's in here fucked my life up for 30 years. And once I'm not perfect, God knows. And I still have fears and issues. But once I started dealing with it, then everything else, oh, Man Parrish, you're this, you're that. Or I don't get a lot of bad feedback. Maybe I should. I don't know. But I know I'm damaged. I know I talk too much. I know I've got some issues. I talk over people. I don't shut up. But fuck it. I don't care.
But it's all from a good place. It's all from a genuine good
place.
Yeah.
I don't think people are bad. I think even murderers and all that stuff and people that have just gone astray. I really. Well, what about just shoot them? What about Donald Trump? I think a murderer. I think a serial killer, as they're killing somebody, really believes that they're doing the right thing because their brain is broken. So how do you, society-wise, you have to stop it. But on an individual level, you have to help that person, which is kind of Buddhism, which I love. You know what I mean? It's just a fly in the room. I don't step on it. I figure out a way to push it out into the world. I live in Florida and New York. In Florida, we have lizards. We have all kinds of things. Sometimes something winds up in the pool, little ants. I go with a little scoop before I go swimming every day, and I pull the ants out because it isn't their fault that I put a pool in the middle of their habitat that they're drowning in. You know what I mean? So if you come from a place like that, you have way more strength than if you're a street kid. And I'm a street kid with that kind of thing. Then, well, fuck you and your mother, and I'm going to fuck you. You know what I mean? That's weakness and that's fear.
Let me ask you one very quick question to interrupt for a very split sec. Mr. Reed, Steve,
yes, I do fart.
Steve, we're getting to the end of our allotted time, but I'm going to carry on talking to Manny. Do you want me to kill the Pressure stream and carry on YouTube, or are you happy for me to carry on here on Pressure? Steve, just let me know quickly, because I've been given a couple of questions. Manny, are you okay for a few more moments to ask a couple of questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just wait for this.
Oh, come on! This is only what? How long have we been here? Like an hour and something. That's nothing.
No, yeah, I forget. I've been on air 2 hours. You see, I forgot it was about 20 minutes before you came in. Okay, so I'll ask the question.
4 hour one.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm good for that. I was asked a couple of names given in here, which I would be interested to hear about, from the likes of Nicky Siano at the Gallery, Mancuso at the Loft. Were you around in those? Did you go to those parties?
Yes, but I didn't know who the DJs were. But I did. I was in every club except for, which I'm so sad I didn't, the Garage with Larry Levan. Later on, I met Frankie Knuckles and stuff like that, which was like incredible. I was in all of those places because I wasn't working, and I went out every night of the week. I'd go to sleep at 6 a.m. and wake up at 4 p.m. And unlike today, where you have social media, and I didn't have a phone, I want to go hang out with my friends. So you went to a club. Well, we're going to go to the Loft. We're going to go to Flamingo. We're going to go to the Underground. We're going to go to blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, I'll see you there. So I did go to all the places, but that was also before DJ culture. You have to remember, there was a DJ there, not the DJ. Later
so
on,
how old would you have been?
What's that?
How old would you have been then at the Loft and at the Gallery?
That's
16?
The Loft is what, like the 80s, 90s?
The Loft began in 71, I believe, and then it went through to the 80s.
Wait, the Gallery was 71.
No, the Gallery.
I was in the Continental Baths at 74, and I saw Bette Midler and our unknown piano player, Bette Midler, and I was 14. The Loft stayed around for a while.
Yeah, it did start.
I also went to a place. See, you guys know of Stonewall, but a lot of people don't know what it was. When you were gay and you'd walk out of a gay bar, cops would beat you up. I remember getting hit in the crotch with a nightstick. Hey, faggot, what were you in there for? No, I said faggot, not Alexa. Okay. Maybe her name is Faggot. And they would hit you in the crotch. You go, what are you in there with all those queers? You know, and they'd shove you against the wall. Don't let me find you here again. Get out of this is my beat. And blah, blah, blah. So, I just lost my train of thought.
Were you talking about Stonewall and the clubs you were going to in this series?
Yeah, but what was the thing before that? Clubs and all that. There wasn't
the date.
DJ
We were
culture.
trying to ascertain the dates of the Loft and the Gallery.
Oh, yeah. I was 14 years old, and I marched in gay parades like a year or two after Stonewall. So I was 16. I think the Loft was around then because we would have gone to it. I went to a place called the Firehouse, which was an abandoned firehouse that a couple of guys rented, put up some party lights and a portable DJ system. And that was like one of the first gay bars, along with the, what's it called? The Roundhouse on 50-something Street. And those were the old, they weren't even training. Those are transvestite bars where they had like big, 60s hairdos, had sequin gowns, and they tried to look like somebody's mother, you know what I mean? That's old transvestite stuff, which is, 50-year-old transvestites, So I think the Loft and the Gallery was around that time, and I would have gone to it because those were after hours, if I remember.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Crisco Disco. I had a big Crisco can, because guys used to like to fist fuck with Crisco. So it was Crisco Disco, which is a pun on that. All the, I can name that. The Mine Shaft, the famous Mine Shaft. I went there. Mars, Alex in Wonderland, Asterix, the Underground, New York, Bonds. Bonds was incredible. It was the width from 44th to 45th Street or 45th to 46th Street in Manhattan, went back halfway down the block. It was a massive airplane hangar on the inside on the second floor. And during World War II, it's where the Army guys would dance with girls. You know what I mean? It closed. It became Bond's clothing store. That closed, and somebody reopened it up as a disco. It had a massive stage. They had dancing waters and these dirigibles that would float over your head and stuff like that. I mean, the clubs were amazing back then, if we're talking about clubs. The Saint was a giant a projector dome, like a planetarium dome, but it was up in the air, and you'd walk in and like, where's the club? And people are climbing up these stairs like these industrial stairs. And when you got up there, you walked into this dome and you couldn't find the corners. It was very disorienting. And it was Grace Jones came down from the ceiling. The side opened up one day and I played there. So clubs were amazing, and a lot of after hours. They were sex clubs. There were a lot of bars had back rooms. It was very free and open, and there were like 8 bathhouses. One of them was 15 stories high, 15 floors of all the dick you can eat, for $10. You know what I mean? It was like it was insane, And which I did this art installation, and I'm very open about saying this. If I was going to meet you at noon and I was taking the train from downtown, I'd leave at 10 o'clock because at 10:15 I could stop and check out the men's room on Spring Street, and then 10:30 I could go to 8th Street, and at 11 o'clock, 14th was too busy, so I could go up to 23rd and maybe cross over and come down again, and then I'd finally meet you on 34th Street, maybe get my dick sucked, maybe have a little fun fooling around, but this was a norm, and I want to document all this stuff. There's incredible stuff under people's, noses, not only gay, but straight stuff too. Plato's Retreat was the Continental Baths, which turned into a straight bathhouse, so I used to throw a party. I had my sperm party, and then we had the super cum spot parties because we'd find a spot to do it in. And I remember on Lexington Avenue between 23rd and 24th Street, there was a loft 2 stories high, and we'd rent it for $500 a night, and we'd have 200 people come in, and we didn't have coat check, we had clothes check, but I'd walk away with $4,000-$5,000 in my pocket and just put on a tape of some ambient music and, a couple of paper towels, here's some lube, don't get it on the floor. And if you do, you got to wipe it up and see you later. You know what I mean? So there was a totally different era that sounds outrageous now, but was socially accepted behavior. Mm-hmm. There was an art to cruising. You had your keys on one side or another. You had a hanky, which had a color code in your back left or right pocket. And if it was one color, you were into this on this side. And if it was one color on that, you were submissive or aggressive, depending on what color the hankies were. Google, here's a little homework, kids. Google gay hanky codes. And this chart will come up and you'd be like, well, black is S&M, yellow is P. I don't have to say what brown is, but there were some other colors too that if you're into like freaky things, you were
Don't Google it, kids. Don't Google it.
Yeah, don't Google it. Ask your mom to Google it for you while you're standing over her.
Okay, so Mr. B is asking, is there, and I'm going to answer this question for you, is there a tell-all book coming out soon? Well, on the website, there are over 40 episodes of 10-minute snippets of stories like this that will make your toes curl. So, Manny, I'm going to start to wrap this up.
I'm too shy. I
don't know
what you're talking about.
Give us your sell of the stories of the website.
So, like I said, people would. Well, I just redid my website, so it's very multimedia. My friend does websites for Samsung and the U.S. Army and all these big corporations, and on the side, he was doing a bunch of porn sites because in the 90s, I thought I was going to have a porn site when you had barely a little enough bandwidth. And I used to film guys, getting off on my couch solo. And the joke was, don't go over Manny's house because if you sit on the couch, you're going to get pregnant. You know what I mean? So, I stayed friends with him, and I said, I got to redo my website. It's really awful. When you go to these car commercials, there's all these backgrounds with videos moving. Well, my website has tons of that all over it. So I needed one place to send people. Well, what have you done since Hip Hop Bebop? Well, go here. There's 157 tracks. The individual tracks I still have to put up this week on Tuesday. He's going to teach me the database. But if you go to Man Parrish Radio and you hit play, everything from the classical and the ambient and the pop and the hip hop and dance and is all mine. And there's portals to my music, and there's also portal to Man Parrish stories, so you can get in there. I put them into 4 seasons of 10 each, so there's 40 of them there. That is sort of my book-ish. I've got a couple more stories to tell. I've got the story about how my mother took me to a doctor and how he raped hundreds of boys under his and brought them home to his wife and kid, and then took them for walks in the country and did terrible things to them. So there's a lot of books and things that I could talk about. I lived with a guy that was a spaceman that told me the space people were coming, and we had to keep our bags packed, and he locked me in the bedroom while he turned the static on the radio and talked to people on Alpha Centauri. I mean, I went through it. So these stories are there. And again, I do them in hopes that somebody who's suffering or somebody's going through a hard time could realize that there's somebody else out there. That kid in England that told me that I didn't kill myself because you affected me so deeply. When I came out that I was sexually abused, you wouldn't believe how many men, not women, how many men confided in me, their brother, their uncle, their friend, touched them or tricked them into doing this and doing that. they say 1 out of every 4 men was sort of not hardcore sexually abused. I don't mean like anally penetrated, but had some sort of an encounter that they were uncomfortable with. So, see, you're sitting here clutching pearls. I have to ask you. So you're sitting here like this.
I'm just
I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you.
Fascinated.
I'm fucking with you. So the book is the beginnings of the book, and there's a lot there. The beginnings of that book are there. They cover from my birth to a little past hip hop, bebop, and some current stuff. I have a lot of shit to talk about, as you noticed. I want to do an underground thing about New York City and cruising and men's room etiquette. If there's 3 other guys in there, one person watched the door, and there was a signaling system if somebody came down towards the door, so everybody stood up and pretended they were just peeing in the urinal. I mean, there's stuff like this which is fascinating today, which the guys that lived it are either dead of AIDS, died of speed, or don't fucking remember, or just not around it. I remember all this shit. So I got some great stories there. So the book is... Stories. Well, the beginnings of it are on.
Okay, well, listen, I've already eaten into the next DJ's time slot, but it is.
There's nobody else.
There's
nobody else.
It's only you, only you and
me.
There is. I
Put
feel
him on.
There is no way.
Get him on the line here. Let me ask him a few questions.
Actually, I did have the option. People could have rang in and talked to you, but whenever I do that in the past, people always get too shy. They, we have all these DJs.
No, it's not me. It's you.
Yeah, I'm intimidating for them. Well, listen, there is no concise way I can end this interview, but end this interview I have to do.
Listen, repeat after me. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. That's the tagline on this.
Okay.
Please, people, if you want to contact me, I'm Man Parrish Artist, 1 N, 2 R's, on Facebook and Instagram. I have the maximum amount of people on Facebook, but you could follow along to keep people entertained every day. I put up memes of dad jokes. That's all. It keeps people entertained. And then when I have an important announcement like a record, you'll get it through my social media. But, like the last one put up a couple of weeks ago, there were 2 bisons. And one is talking to that. He goes, Dad, are you gay? And the other one says, no, I'm bison. So there's like, dad jokes. So I put up daily dad jokes to keep you laughing. I know they're dad jokes. I don't think they're funny. It's just stupid stuff, funny fail videos and stuff like that. So follow me along. If you need to contact me through Messenger there, like you did, Or were you the guy that called it breathing heavy the other night? I can't remember.
No, that was me.
There you go. Well, you're good.
Yeah,
you're good. You're good.
I have got
a few times on that one. That was good, man.
I have got my talents. Right. Mr. Man Parrish, I cannot thank you enough. I truly appreciate you. And we all...
just the message is be yourself. Don't worry about other people's bullshit. Don't let that shit get in your way. I'm 64 years old. My life isn't over. I get boners in the morning and I'm happy about it. You know what I mean? Still, I am me. I don't give a... No one's going to change me. Be whoever you are. Just be good. If your heart's good, you've made it.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Well, listen, if there is no other way of ending a radio show other than on a boner, I don't know what is. My friend, thank you so much.
Well, you could stand up and drop your pants and we'll all be happy.
Goodbye.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
One love, man.
It's been a pleasure.
Take care, man. One love. One love. That was absolutely incredible. Why is there 2 pictures of me there? What can I say? What can I say, guys? Man Parrish. I had a completely different format for how that interview was going to go. We were going to listen to some of his new music. We were going to get some questions from you guys, and then I was just quite happy to sit and listen to him talking. Steve, my apologies for eating into your show, my friend, but it would appear that you all had a good time. Thank you to everyone watching on the YouTube and on the Mixcloud. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people coming back and checking out the recording. If you've made it to the end, then fair play. I cannot express enough, I'm sure it came across, how crazy it is to be sat talking to Man Parrish for 2 hours. How gracious was he with his time. Right, folks, I'm going to end. Thank you very much, Steve. It's all yours, brother. Take care.